Hello everyone, I'm Colin Canet. Today I'm going to make a small parts holding jig to use on the router table, and I'm going to use the router table to make it. If you're new here today, I invite you to subscribe, click the little notification bell, and let's get started with this jig. A lot of new woodworkers are afraid of routers, and I think part of that reason is because that such a loud, high-pitched noise. So today we're going to make a little jig that holds parts that you can use when you're running through the router. Now, if you're a subscriber to my channel and you've watched some of these programs, you'll know that one of the things I always warn people of is be very, very careful when you're cutting small parts. Doesn't matter what machine you're on. The small parts are the ones that can be the most dangerous because they can flip out or move, and that's why this is such a good idea on the router table. To get started, I've pre-cut some wood, and this is just 1/4-inch plywood, and I have a couple of strips of 3/4-inch plywood. So I've got 1/4-inch plywood here and 3/4-inch plywood here. The base plate is 20 inches by 6 inches wide, and these little strips are 3 inches by 10 inches wide, and they conveniently are the length of this bottom base piece. Now, the first thing I need to do, because these need to move back and forth, I need to cut some slots in here. So I'm going to do that with the router, and I'm just going to set that up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down, move forward, and pull them up. And I have to keep, because I can't cut it all in one pass, I'm going to have to keep moving the router bit up a little bit each time. And I'm not going to make you sit through the whole process of this, but I'll show you what it's going to look like. What I want to do is make the slot an even 8 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure on this side 8 inches. So that's from the bit to this stop here. And now I'm just going to clamp that down. And now I'll do the same thing on the other side, 8 inches. And clamp that side. And now what I'll do is a plunge cut, and you see that I've got the bit already in the router. So what I'll do is I will drop that down, slide it along to this one, and then lift that up. And now I'm just going to move that router bit up a little bit, and we'll make the second pass. And I'm just going to carry on doing this until we get to the top. So let me tell you what we're going to do now. There's the two pieces we just made, and they're going to slide back and forth here against this backer board. Now this backer board is going to need to get fastened down, but these slots here are going to slide back and forth on this T-nut, and you can see I just grind the heads around. I just grind them down myself, but then you need a knob to go on top, and I've made these star knobs in the past, and they just use a T-nut, and you've seen the T-nuts that I use from time to time, and they work fine. You know, you could use wing nuts on there. Wing nuts will work fine with a washer. Today, just because I have a couple spares, I'm going to use these black plastic knobs just because they look cool, and I happen to have a couple of spare ones. Now the reason I like to use screws on this, if I ever have to change that backer board for a wider one or a narrow one, I can just simply unscrew it and put another one on there. Well, I've moved over to the drill press, as you can see, and I have the slot material in it, and it's clamped to my backer board, which is right here, and I'm going to drill a hole right through the slot and into the baseboard because that's where that T-bolt is going to go through. Now you can see I've just put the T-bolts in there just so you can see. You can see that they're a little bit proud of the base. So what I need to do is I need to recess them. And I've drawn, you can see that I've drawn a circle around them. And I could dig them out with a chisel and try and flatten them. But the best thing to do is to cut it out with a Forstner bit, and you just drill a couple of very shallow holes on each side, and then you still may need to do a little bit of work with a chisel. So I'm going to do that. I've done that in the past and it's worked well. So I'm going to try it again this time and hopefully that'll work. There we go, and that fits in there very nicely. I had to do a little bit of recess because as you can see, there's a little bit of collar on the back of these T-nuts, and but that fits in there nice and snug. That's going to be just perfect. Okay, that's working perfect. Now the last thing we need to add is a little clamp in case we need to hold the wood down. Now one of the things that I have to do with this jig before I start using it, I need to cut a little bit of a recess out of here. And the reason for that is sometimes when you're using a bit like this Roman ogee bit, you can see how this little bit coming down here, this little part of the bit coming down, it may interfere with this at some point if you're using a bit like this. And even if you're not using a bit like this, that little bit of a recess in there is not going to make any difference to anything. So I'm just going to go ahead now and we'll cut that out. Let's try this little jig out here. I've got a piece of wood here, and because it's a little narrow, I've got a backer board to go in here. I butt it up against this side here and move that one up and tighten it down, lock it there. We'll turn the dust collector on. Okay, and there we go. Nice, safe way of doing small pieces of wood using your router table. Well, that concludes my video today on making the small parts holder jig for the router table, and a great addition to add to your accessories for your router table. But before you go away, I want to remind you that the article for this will be on WoodWorkWeb. Check it out when you get a moment. I'm Colin Canet for WoodWorkWeb. Thanks for watching.